Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Rachel's Rankings. And this week I decided to be really ambitious and to try to do a ranking with 10 different movies. And these are all movies that I rewatched this week in order to be prepared to do the ranking. And and I decided to rank the movies based on Disneyland rides or attractions. And this was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun. I don't know why I particularly picked this topic because there are not very many that I like, but I still thought it was kind of a fun intellectual exercise. So I'll try to go through these pretty quickly so this video isn't super long, but definitely let me know what your rankings are in the comments below. And remember, there's no right or wrong ranking. It's just our own ranking. So don't be nice in the comment section, please. So let's talk about it. All right, number 10, I have The Country Bears. This is, of course, based on the Country Bear Jamboree. I had never seen this movie. I'd heard about it a lot and how terrible it is. And it really is pretty terrible. And it's hard to get over how weird these bears look. They look so strange because they're not like regular bears, and they're not they're like that we see normal bears. They're like these weird costume bears. You can see the line in their heads when they put on the top part of the costume. It's so strange. And and beyond the weirdness, it doesn't really have a whole lot going for it because it's just basically a save the venue kind of story. And the songs are fine, but yeah, it's not that funny. Christopher Walken, he tries, but it just ends up being weird. The whole movie is just strange. The strangest part to me was Chris Cooper's bear that's like obsessed with the lawn, like that. I felt like that was sort of serial killer bear. It was really weird, but it had to come in at number 10. Number 9 for me is actually Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides. There are some things that I like about this movie. I like Blackbeard a lot. I like Penelope Cruz. I think she's having a good time in the role. I think it was just such a mistake to make Jack the forefront of these movies. I think he's much better as a side character than as the main character. I think the changeover from it being sort of fantastical to being more this action adventure, searching for the Fountain of Youth, I don't think it really worked very well, and I really hated anything to do with the mermaids. It was not for me. I didn't think that actor was very good, and I just didn't like anything to do with the mermaids. So it's not my favorite. It's my least favorite of the Pirates movies. All right, then next up I have Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Man Tell No Tales. I think the action is slightly more entertaining in this film than in Stranger Tides, so that's why it gets the slight bump. There's some pretty fun set pieces in here. I think the whole search for the Trident is really no more interesting than the search for the Holy Grail. But I think that you have Barbossa being pretty fun in this, so that helps a little bit. But Jack is just way too much in this movie. It's just overkill. He's gone from being like a smart character that sort of plays the buffoon to just being the buffoon and being kind of mean and thoughtless, and just you're not rooting for him anymore, and you need to be able to root for him. I thought the two younger new cast, that you have, I don't think that they worked really very well at all. I didn't have very good chemistry, and so I don't know. It was not my favorite. I think some of the visuals are really cool, and like I said, I think some of the action set pieces work well, but yeah, it gets my number 8 spot. Number 7, I have The Haunted Mansion. And this is a bummer to me because I think this movie had a lot of potential. I really like the diversity in the casting. I really like the visual effects, the production design. All the nods to the ride are, of course, there. And like you have the grim grinning ghosts, and you have the bride, and you have a bunch of the different characters from the ride. And so that's a lot of fun. And I feel like it could have been really fun, but I don't know. I don't like Eddie Murphy's character. I think he's a real downer. I don't know. I'm just not invested in his character. He's not funny at all. And the story just kind of plays out like a mediocre episode of Once Upon a Time to me. And so it's it's frustrating because I think it could have been really, really quite good. Okay, then we have one you probably not heard of. This is number 6 on my list, is Mission to Mars. This was actually a ride in Tomorrowland for many years, and this came out in 2000. This movie should be amazing. It's directed by Brian De Palma. It has an incredible cast: Gary Sinise, Tim Robbins, Don Cheadle, Connie Nelson, Jerry O'Connell. This huge, huge list of cast. It has a score by Ennio Morricone, who just passed away. It has beautiful cinematography, but it really felt like 3 different movies kind of mashed together, and then none of them really kind of work together. You've got like the space exploration. There's times when it feels almost like an Armageddon kind of wannabe, where it's trying to be really pulpy like that, and then it's trying to be like all Kubrickian at times, where they there's aliens that come into place, and some real like surreal things, and I don't know, it just didn't all work together for me. And I don't know, it's one of those movies that should be way better than it is, but it's just not that great. But it does look pretty, and the music is nice. So it ends up at number 6. Number 5, I have Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Man's Chest. This movie was so disappointing for me when it came out, because I love the first one, and I do think it is way too long. It is way too convoluted. But I do admire the fact that they basically like created their own lore. I think that's kind of cool. And I think that the action and the production design and all that is pretty impressive. They definitely spent a ton of money on this, and it shows. They kind of spare no expense. The problem is that it's just kind of boring, because I don't care about all these characters. I'm not invested in the story because it's so convoluted, and I just, in the end, I think even though it was ambitious, I think in some ways maybe it was a little too ambitious, and if they just kept the story simpler, I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more and gotten to really know the characters. But you're zooming all around to all these different characters, all this different lore, all this different plot lines, and I don't like Davy Jones as a character. And the whole thing with the locker, and we get more on that in the third one, but it's just confusing. All those things are pretty enjoyable, but it's just so plot heavy and so convoluted that it actually ends up becoming kind of boring. And I sort of sat there thinking, how does a movie with this much action end up feeling so dull? And I think it's just because we don't get enough moments to just breathe with the characters and just sort of be with them and have fun with them and get to know them. It's so kind of dark and serious and this epic adventure kind of a thing. Whereas I think the first movie has more moments where you could kind of rest and just enjoy the characters. So it ends up at number 5. Number 4, I have Tomorrowland. This is a movie that I wish I liked more than I do. I think that it has a lot of interesting ideas. The whole idea of sort of finding the hopeful and rejecting cynicism, I think that's a great message. But the problem is I feel like the movie is very repetitive with that message. I think it could have easily been a short film and just made that message in just sort of the George Clooney part of it when he's a little boy, and so you get his whole sort of story with the robot, and then you get the whole Britt Robertson story. And I don't know, I feel like by the time that we finally get the actual message, I've heard that message now a bunch of times within the story, and so I just don't think that it has. It's one of those things that, yes, I admire what you're doing, but I don't think you executed it very well. I don't think the script was quite there yet for them. I think the actors are all trying. There's some nice action. It looks beautiful, but I just don't think the narrative and the story was there. But it looks nice enough, and it's bold enough that it ended up at number 4 on my list. But I think it's a movie that I wish I liked better, I guess, if that makes any sense. So my number 3 is Tower of Terror. This is a movie that was made for the Disney Channel, made for TV, I think ABC at the time, actually. It was made for them. And a lot of people probably haven't seen this movie. This is based on the Tower of Terror that was in California Adventure, and then also that's still in Magic Kingdom, I think, or Hollywood Studios, Disney World. And so what they do is they take the Hollywood Hotel there, And they create this whole story about this in 1939, this whole group that was in the elevator, and it got like basically bewitched. And so then you have Steve Gutenberg's character, who's like a tabloid reporter and always reporting on all these crazy things. And so he and Kirsten Dunst end up kind of looking into the mystery behind the tower, the hotel, and what happened. And it's really a fun little mystery. It's a fun little haunted house story. Sure, the visuals aren't on the level of your Pirates of the Caribbean, but the storytelling is way tighter. And I just think it's way more fun to watch. It's only like an hour and 15 minutes. And it's sweet, and I like the performances, and I think it's a fun little ghost story if you want to watch one with your family. So there we go. That's number 3. Number 2 for me is Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. This is the third one, and so it's my favorite of any of the sequels. I think because there's some sort of finality to it, that I don't know. I guess I like it a little bit better than some of the other ones. I think the pirate diplomacy can be a little bit boring, but I do sort of like the girl power part of it. I like Keira Knightley in playing like sort of the leader here. Elizabeth getting to sort of lead the other pirates is kind of a fun element. I really like the whole action scene where they end up getting married during the action scene. That to me is a lot of fun. The locker and the multiple jacks and all of that is so weird that in a way it kind of works a little bit, that you're just like, what is happening? But I do think it's still very, very bloated and convoluted and not the best. I don't like the what I call the algae pirates, and I'm not a fan of Davy Jones. I just never liked that character. Don't like the design of that character. And I don't know, I just think that there's a lot of stuff in this movie that's just kind of gross, and that's not my aesthetic and what I enjoy. So yeah, but it has enough adventure, enough action, enough romance, enough all of that stuff to end up at number 2. So number 1 for me is The Curse of the Black Pearl. And this movie, I think, is kind of a Princess Bride for the 2000s. It has everything that movie has, as far as swashbuckling fun, witty banter, the charismatic actors, and they use just enough Jack Sparrow to introduce you to him without overdoing it. And you forget that he was nominated for an Oscar for this role, which is really unusual for this kind of a film. But he's so funny. He's so charming. It's such a different portrayal than we'd had before. I really like Keira Knightley. I really like Orlando Bloom. They're really charming in their roles. I think that you have some nice nods to the ride, which for a Disneyland fan is really, really fun. And overall, I think it's just by far the best paced of any of these movies. I think the pacing is actually kind of perfect. I mean, it just goes, and you just enjoy the adventure of it all. And so it's my favorite of these films. And so we have The Country Bears at 10. We have Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides at 9. We have Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Man Tell No Tales at 8. We have The Haunted Mansion at 7. Mission to Mars at 6. We have Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Man's Chest at 5. We have Tomorrowland at 4. Tower Terror at 3, Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End at 2, and we have the Pirates of the Caribbean Curse of the Black Pearl at number 1. So let me know what you think about my ranking, and let me know your ranking down below, how you would rank them. And if you haven't seen some of these more obscure ones, check it out. It's always a fun experience. And so thanks so much. Please subscribe to my channel and like this video, and let me know what you would like me to rank in future episodes of Rachel's Rankings. Please consider becoming a patron of the channel. We have so much fun there. And then also we have our merch store, which has some really, really fun designs. And thanks again, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye, everyone.